Hey everybody, Tim Kawakami here for 49ers Plus Minus. Incredibly eventful last few days. Just an amazing lineup of people speaking at 49ers camp today on their kind of bonus practice because of the Monday night game to start the season. I'm here with my co-host, Matt Barrows. So much stuff's been going on. We're not over dramatizing it. It's been ridiculous just to kind of sift through everything. But let's start obviously with, the one that was, with a life at stake, with a life in jeopardy. 49ers rookie receiver Ricky Pearsall, who was shot on Saturday, but seems to have come to it. I just think legitimately the 49ers are just amazed that he came through it. Obviously there's a wound. Obviously there's things he must heal with, but does not seem to be a major thing. I mean, major that you're shot, major, but maybe he can play the season. Just Barrows, what do you make of all this? What do you make of John Lynch's conversation with the media today?
Yeah, and maybe play, right after that 4-week period that he has to sit out. I mean, that's what Lynch made it sound like. Like there was some question about whether they even needed to put him on NFI reserve, which costs him 4 games. And Lynch suggested that the shoulder injury, the pre-existing shoulder injury, kind of factored into that decision. Lynch was, he's probably been up forever. Between Pearsall on Saturday night and the Trent Williams deal. I thought that Lynch was very raw today. I mean, he's just sort of on the brink of becoming emotional. And he kept it together. But I mean, it just kind of shows you where this franchise is right now. Just really, going through the ringer. Yeah. I mean, I hate using roller coaster. It's overused, but I mean, that's what it was on Saturday. I mean, these guys went off the edge, just plunged at around 4:00 on Saturday. But by 5, they had, reached the crest because they were starting to get news that, okay, it's not life-threatening. Okay, he's in stable conditioning. Oh, he's on the phone right now from his hospital bed. He actually FaceTimed them at the 49ers party. By the way, there was a party going on Saturday at the same time that the 49ers went ahead with.
At Kyle Shanahan's house.
At Kyle Shanahan's house, they dress up for it. I mean,
Rick Ross was there. Rick Ross was there.
Rick Ross was there. Trent Williams was not. We're just kind of talking about just the craziness and just the raw amount of emotion that has gone on over this just the weekend.
Yeah, that's 2 days after Brandon Aiyuk finally comes into camp. And
right. And 2 days before Trent Williams ends up ending his holdout. So, I mean, unbelievable twisting, turning roller coaster. And you were kind of feeling the effects of it from the 49ers today, especially with John Lynch.
Yeah, pretty amazing story, Ricky Pearsall. I mean, we don't know the full story, but it does seem like he fought off somebody with a gun, got shot. The guy with the gun who was trying to steal his new luggage, as John Lynch talked about, that he was there to buy after a card signing appearance in the Cal Palace, went to Union Square to buy some luggage. Obviously, he's going to be using it, flying around with the 49ers, and something happened with someone trying to steal it from him. But just, we don't know, but I think the 49ers really showed that this guy has meant something to them in these few, months with the team. Trent Williams, who barely met him, went on a soliloquy about what he really likes him. He wanted to be here. He said that's almost as much as anything that wanted him to come in. I'm sure it was the dollars. We know that. But what he meant was emotionally, he wanted to be in there. Brandon Aiyuk, we saw the tweet from Debo. That must have been some party, Matt Barrows. I don't mean that flippantly. I mean, they were celebrating the end of camp, beginning of a new season, but also getting through the ringer of seeing their teammates shot, and they're worried. And then the Aiyuk, the Trent, I mean, this whole thing, it's, I've seen people, could it galvanize them? I don't know. I definitely think, though, that there's a energy to this. There's even Aiyuk, who, is not expansive at his press conference, said, oh, by the way, Aiyuk had a press conference, who hadn't talked to us since the week of the Super Bowl. There was he felt lighter. He felt renewed energy. Now, again, whatever you can ascribe it to, but there was definitely an energy around the 49ers today. And whether that leads into something big on Monday night or the first part of the season or this entire season, I do not know. But we know what it felt like a couple weeks ago, right? I mean, we were all saying there's like a dark cloud over this team. Oh, by the way, Christian McCaffrey returned to practice today. Like there's all these things piled up. A report from ESPN that Deebo Samuel's contract got restructured, which maybe means he's actually going to be here next season. We don't know. It just makes it probably more likely that he'll be here next year. Something has turned. I mean, again, it's not, maybe it's random things all come together. Maybe it's something that in the air where they just decided to become the real 49ers again. But something has happened in the last few days.
I agree with you, and I don't know how it's going to play out. I mean, you go back to last year, and there was sort of an odd vibe at the end of last training camp. Remember, they had just dealt Trey Lance, sort of a clumsy, trade of Trey Lance to the Dallas Cowboys. Nick Bosa hadn't signed; he did that at the last second. There was a thought that, okay, this isn't a great way to go into the season. And then they go in and they trounce the Steelers in Pittsburgh, 10 o'clock a.m. start. All the things that we experts were kind of sussing out and like, oh, it's not going to be good for the 49ers to start out the season. They were great to start out the season. This is that kind of oddness, weirdness times 10. And it is getting resolved a little bit, more quickly than it did last year. They've got more time to, go through like a real week of practice, just their regular ramp up to a game that they're going to have this week. So my sense is that they're going to be just fine. It is a long season though. And it's almost as if, Tim, they just played a season. Like everything that happened this offseason, this training camp is sort of the emotional equivalent of a full season. And they haven't even played a game yet. So I don't know if that's going to be exhausting to them in the long run or what, but they seem to handle some oddities last year just fine early on. I think they'll probably do the same this year.
Well, the number one thing is they're so talented, and that's been, I think, part of the problem. Obviously, they got so many guys making top of their position group. They've got the Brock Purdy thing coming next season. This is an expensive roster. I don't think anyone has ever denied that. They deal with it how they deal with it. I just wonder if Jed York has just said, you know what, we're trying to draw the line on guaranteed money, but at some point we just have to pay this. We have to pay it. If we want to go for a Super Bowl and we think this team can, it's time to do it. I think it was a little later in the belief than others, or they just wanted to wait it out to see what they could get. But Trent Williams wasn't going to come in for $1 less than he wanted. We know that. Bosa like that last year. Aiyuk, maybe there was a line here the 49ers held. I think there was. I think they kind of wanted out that there was. But Deebo getting a restructure, maybe that means like they're into it for, like we kept saying, do they want two $20 million receivers? The general assumption had been no, especially when you have an $18 million tailback and a $17 million tight end, and a $27 million left tackle. We can talk about the Trent Williams numbers a little bit that have been reported by his agency, which I assume means they're correct. But I think maybe they're like, you know what? And then, $60 million quarterback. This is what it costs. So this is what the Eagles, this is what the Eagles are paying. This is what the Lions are paying. Do you want to be as good as them? Do you want to be better than them? You do have to pay out this money. Again, it's going to hit the cap at some point. It's not going to hit the cap right away. It just isn't. Whenever they sign Purdy, that big money will not hit to like 2027. That's the way these deals work out. The Aiyuk deal is going to lessen his cap. It did lessen his cap hit. Trent Williams money guarantee is going to lessen his cap hit this year. But let's talk a little bit about the Trent money. It's been reported, or it's been said by his agent. At least I saw Josh DeBow, the Associated Press, reported on this. 3 years, 88-point-something million, about $27 million a year, with $48 million guaranteed at signing. Meaning that's what he'll. We don't know the structure of it, where that would end up as base salary, as non-base salary, but it's basically 2 years guaranteed, $24 million a year, which is interesting because he was owed 20 this year. You add $4 million and fine. What does that come to? 24. And then you go 24 next year. If you look at it with whatever they throw, that if you just go 3 years, 88 plus, that puts them about 27, which is below the number one tackle in the league, which is Tristan Wirfs at 28. Interesting. You thought he might want more. Maybe at this point, Trent's not fighting for that. Maybe he's fighting for guaranteed money. Just what do you see when you hear those numbers, Barrows?
I just see a lot of zeros, basically. I mean, I'm mostly interested in what this means for their personnel. I mean, what does this mean for how long Trent Williams is going to play, how long the 49ers expect him to be their left tackle? This is something you and I have discussed since April. Is, what is the future plan at left tackle? I'm a little surprised it doesn't push it further into the future.
No, it might. It might.
Yeah. That's if you ask me what I'm looking for, that's what I'm looking for. How long does this essentially keep Trent Williams on the roster and keep Trent Williams at left tackle? Because today he was very strident about wanting to play for longer. He had brought up retirement after after the 2022 season.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
3 years ago. And so that had everybody kind of wondering, okay, just how long does he want to play? And his point today was that his holdout, being in Houston while his teammates were going through training camp, being in Houston while he's kind of watching joint practices around the league and watching preseason games, he realized that he loves this game and he wanted to be there. Certainly his play has not diminished. He said that he did some things. We'll have to get the specifics of this from him at a later point, but started changing some things about his training, maybe about his habits and things like that will prolong his career, get him to play at 40. So, I mean, that would go a long way toward answering this question that you and I have been asking, like, what is the plan after Trent Williams? If the plan is to keep him around through age 39, maybe age 40, you don't have to do a whole bunch at that position. You have to do something. I don't want to get people shrieking at us about right tackle, but that would be reassuring to a lot of people if they thought that Trent Williams is here, not just for 2 years, not just until he's 38, which is 2 years away, but for a little bit longer than that.
Okay, we got a little delay there, but I will begin talking here. Yeah, I mean, anytime you hear Trent Williams saying, I want to play as long as I can, that's a good thing for the 49ers. I think he does. Now we'll see, as he said, he's very realistic. Let's see if he's worth it. Let's see if the 49ers will pay that money. And that was, I'm sure, part of the debate about, can they pay him this kind of money into his, 3 years from now? But I can just see it, Barrows, like every year for the next 4 years, we ask Kyle and John, hey, when are you going to draft a left tackle? We're going to get to 2027. Hey, you're going to draft a left tackle? Because Trent's getting a little older now. He's now 42. So,
right.
You know what? Maybe another 5 years. Maybe you draft one left tackle in 5 years. Who needs one now? They are committing to this. Now, listen, I'm someone who's raised. Are the Yorks going to pay what it takes to keep this roster together? It took a long time, but they are doing it. I am going to credit them for that. This is what, once they paid the restructuring deal with McCaffrey in June, they had to do this with Trent. Had to. He's more important. It's hard to believe somebody's more important in this team than Christian McCaffrey. I think Trent Williams is. Or you can put Bosa and McCaffrey and Purdy in one big group, but I put left tackle with no replacement in sight is maybe the number one. And they're paying what it takes. And it's not cap money, it's guaranteed money. And if they're paying it, I give them credit for that. Okay, Aiyuk, Brandon Aiyuk. We're seeing some of the numbers for that. Looks like it's almost identical to Amon-Ra St. Brown. We talked about it a little bit, but what did you think about what Aiyuk said today answering questions?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly wasn't as expansive as Trent Williams was. The takeaway quote, and I don't have it in front of me, but it was essentially acknowledging that he made it a little bit more difficult than he needed to at the end, which sort of, meshes with what was coming out of the 49ers a couple of days ago, that, they had this offer on the table on August 12 or whatever the date was.
It's moved around. That date's moved around. I think it's now
around there.
They're now saying the 12th. It was reported the 10th, changed to the 13th. I heard it was the 13th, but now we're saying 12th. Okay, there we go. August 12th.
Right. So, I mean, he was just basically being a little bit sheepish about that and saying that maybe this whole impasse could have been over 2.5 weeks ago, or whenever this date was. He seemed to be sort of defiant about being ready for the season. Like, what kind of impact is, zero spring reps and zero summer reps going to have on him? I still think it has to. It's going to, and we got into that in our. We should tout our over under piece too. That's going to be very controversial at the end of the season, I think. But
I can't even remember. You had like 5 versions of it. I can't even remember.
Well, there was Tim. You might acknowledge that there were some things going on this weekend that altered some of the questions.
It's like, hey, wait a minute, you got to take that question out. You got to put this one in. You got to change this one.
But I thought that the best one is asking who's going to have the better season, Brandon Aiyuk or Deebo Samuel, and we're talking receiving yards, not total yards. And we had different answers to that. We had 5 different 49ers experts chiming in on that, and we got different answers. But I think that's something, with this Deebo restructure, that might be a question mark. If Deebo has a sensational season, if he outplays Brandon Aiyuk, it's going to be really difficult to just kind of show him the door after this. They did that with Eric Armstead. Eric Armstead had another injury-laden season. So Eric Armstead, super talented, has done a lot for this organization, but you could understand it. And if you're a fan, you could accept that. Deebo Samuel has a great year, and he's poised for one. That's going to be a hard guy to say goodbye to.
Yeah, I don't think they do this restructure without seeing the numbers. Maybe I'll be proven entirely wrong, and it makes it easier for them to get out of it. But I doubt it. That's not how these tend to be.
Yeah.
I don't think this happens without him looking great in camp, looking absolutely great, being in a good mood. Every drill. I mean, in practice every day, but as much as anybody did. And maybe Dominic Pooney and had practice more, but not many other people did. Looking great. I just think that was part like, hey, listen, this guy's showing that we will want him next season. I don't think it'll make it impossible for them to move off of him next season, but I think it is, something that they're moving toward in a way that I did not expect, in a way the contract was not set up to be when they signed it. They signed this to be 3 years, that's it. There won't be a 4th year. And now there might be a 4th year of this contract. So a lot of things happening with this team all of a sudden last week.
But is this now, keep everyone until they're 40
well,
team? They're going to have Brock Purdy coming down the pipe pretty soon.
They will have some decision. Now, listen, George Kittle's a decision they'll have to make. They got Javon Kinlaw, they got Javarius Ward. I think you basically said, expect Javarius Ward to be re-signed. Diamond Lenore, I don't know. Maybe they'll just go all offense. Screw the way John Lynch is drafted. Hell of that. Let's go all offense. I don't know. I think they can push it back with this guaranteed money. You can keep pushing it back. You're going to have to pay the price eventually, but this is the window, Barrows. I do think you're seeing the John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan convincing, or maybe they didn't even have to convince, showing Jed York that this is the window. Like, this is the window. Whether it's with Brock Purdy on a minimum salary or Brock Purdy once he starts making more money, before those big Purdy cap hits start to come, which is 27, this is the window. Then after that, you're counting on Brock Purdy to carry you through. But until that, like his cap hits, even when he does a new deal, are going to be like 7 and 14. They're not going to be 50. That won't be till 27, 28, 29, 30. So this is the new window. And I think that was logical. It's always been the logical thing. You don't like get scared in advance of these cap hits. I understand if you want to, but that doesn't, if you're not a Super Bowl team, maybe, but this is a Super Bowl team. This is a Super Bowl team in overtime. There are 30 teams that did not do what they did, and 30 teams, maybe 31 teams that don't have the talent they've got, other than Patrick Mahomes just makes all things unbalanced. Go for it. Put the money in this one. See what happens down the road. If you blow your chance at a Super Bowl, you will never forgive yourself. I don't think they will forgive themselves for blowing up that Harbaugh team. Now, that team was deteriorating, so maybe it wouldn't. But you did blow your best shot at it. And there's just things that you regret in as an owner or as an executive that I don't think this team wanted to regret. They're never going to get Trent Williams again. They're never going to have a player like that again. They're never going to have a player like Christian McCaffrey like this again. Make the bet, go for it, and then deal with it 2 or 3 years down the road. And by that point, you're hoping Brock Purdy's so good that that's enough. Like kind of the way, other teams are doing it around the franchise quarterback. You don't have to do that if you're 49ers right now. You've got him at a low salary. So we'll see. I mean, it doesn't guarantee anything. I would not call them Super Bowl favorites, but what they've done is solidified their chances, which is what they had to do to win this, be desperate for a Super Bowl. They've got to be. McCaffrey back. We didn't get to see him in any drills or anything, but he's back in uniform. Were you ever questioning whether that would be the case, Barrows?
No, because we were watching him work out on a side field, and he was going pretty full bore at that point. I think the nature of calf injuries are that you just don't want it to turn into something more serious that affects him throughout the season. I think they reassured themselves that is not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you heard all this national stuff. Oh my God, you don't know him. Also, hopefully that works out. But like I bumped into him like right after they shut him down, and he was fine. Like he was no problem. So
I bumped into him once coming back from the team hotel with a pair of flippers in his hand. It's one of the workouts that he does at the Marriott pool, where he gets in the pool and just does 600 laps in the pool.
Very much like your workout routine, Barrows. Very, very much.
Exactly.
You probably saw you doing it. I have to tick up my intensity here. Barrows is putting me to shame. There's a football game in 6 days, Barrows. We have not really talked about this at all. I don't know that we will do another show before then. How much does all this, do you think, plot in like Trent Williams? Is he going to be able to block the Jets? Like, do they have they hired, who did they trade for? They signed a new edge rusher, didn't they? Oh, well, Reddick, right? Reddick's out. Is that
Reddick's out? Yeah. They do have a good edge rusher. They're really talented though in the middle.
Yeah.
With Quinn Williams, the guy that the 49ers at one point considered hiring or drafting
over Bosa. Well, it was Bosa or Williams, right?
Right.
Yeah. It was Bosa.
I don't think that was ever.
But they loved Quinn Williams. And. I assume Trent's going to plop in there, play every down. I think Aiyuk maybe 60%, something like that, and should be good enough to win that game. Maybe they lose it. I also will say if they had not signed those two guys and lost that game, I think we mentioned that. How bitter would that have been? That would have been an ill wind for this team. Now they might still lose it, but that was not a game you want to look bad at on Monday Night Football to start the season. Oh, I should say they're going to announce their captains probably Thursday. I think it's pretty routine, but Barrows, how do you think that goes?
Yeah, I mean, Trent Williams is there. I would think that Brock Purdy makes it this year.
Second year. Last year he was in already, so he's got to be in again. That's 2.
Yeah, and then Nick Bosa, who we see increasingly taking a more kind of vocal role with this team. Not a naturally vocal guy, but somebody that when he does talk, and we feel this as media members, you're there for the Nick Bosa pressers. Because what he says counts. I mean, and Trent Williams is basically the same way on offense. And Trent today, I thought, was sensational up on the podium, and just kind of speaks to his importance to this locker room. He's the elder statesman. He brings confidence to the team. This is why he deserves to. All the money that he gets.
Yep. And what he says, listen, he's been out. Bosa wasn't a captain last year because he was holding out at the time of the vote. I don't know when the vote happened. Maybe Trent didn't get the vote because of that. I think he is, no matter what, he is one of the 3 most important people in that locker room. The other, Fred Warner, will be a captain, obviously guaranteed. George Kittle will be a captain, obviously guaranteed. And the 6th one, who we missed, Purdy, Trent Williams, Bosa.
Was Debo a captain at one point?
Debo was a captain last year. First year. Yeah. That's right. It'll be Debo. You're right. It'll be those 6. Armstead was in last year. Bosa wasn't. So Armstead being gone, pretty simple to just put Bosa in there. They don't usually get too exotic with these captains. I believe Kyle has a little influence on this too, and those would be the 6. Somebody was joking. Other teams have special teams guy be a captain. I go, not on a Kyle Shanahan team.
Wait, and put your guy Moody as the captain.
Jake Moody. We wanted 6 captains. You got it. No, it will be those. If they have 6, remember when Trey Lance finished 7th, and they just if I would have done 7, it would have been Trey Lance. So.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You're right. Kyle is the one that tallies them. Yes, so he gets like all the ballots, and then he decides who won the vote.
Yeah. Some votes are like count 2, and some votes count 0. But I think that 6. The only question is if Trent is in it. I think he still will be in it. I think they would try to Kyle might just try to get Trent to be the captain no matter what, because it's just such symbolic of leadership, symbolic of who the guys really listen to, who they follow. Who do they listen? Who do they follow out of the tunnel? Barrows. Who do they follow out of the tunnel?
Yeah, Debo and Trent.
Yep, 2 captains. Anything else on this incredibly we just so much going on.
Some minor stuff. We didn't see Yetur Gross-Matos today at practice. We didn't see a couple of guys. Isaac Garendo didn't practice. I don't think that his issue is long term, but it does mean that the 49ers might go into this game against the Jets with exactly 2 running backs. You usually want 3, and not real deep at defensive end, not real deep at center. We knew all this, but it's coming to the forefront, I think, earlier than the 49ers would have wanted it to. Talanoa Hufanga, probably isn't going to play in this game. I don't know. That's a question mark going forward as well. So, already sort of into those roster maneuvering things that they have to do from week to week just to be able to field a roster of players.
They got a running back on practice squad, right? Can they elevate?
They do, yeah. Patrick Taylor.
Yeah, so I would imagine they elevate. Yeah. Well, they'll have to elevate. You can't have only 2 tailbacks. You cannot only have 2 tailbacks.
Your guy, Malik Mustafa, changed his number. So did Renardo Green. Renardo Green's number 0 now.
Okay. And what number is
Mustafa's number 6, which I sort of thought that 43 suited him. The big guy's number.
I'm going to be going, what's Danny Gray doing running around on defense? I don't understand what happened. When did that switch happen?
You're going to be like, yeah, Danny Gray's finally throwing his weight around. Nice. Good
He's
job.
Really physical. My goodness. Way to go, Danny Gray. I know I'm going to think it's Danny Gray. So, woo, what a day. What a last 4 days, Sparrows. We packed it all in here. I can't believe this all happened. And again, I was talking to a player today. Like we both were going, I can't believe this all happened. Like in the last 3 days, just amazing with the regular season just starting. Maybe that's when it had to happen, deadlines and all these things, but it's amazing.
Yeah. The question is, how does this affect the team? Is this sort of a jolt of elation that really sort of sets them off into the season on the right foot? That's what I think is going to happen, but I don't know if that's always translatable. I mean, this was a stressful summer. Usually the summer is all about kind of positive, and then you go into the season. This is anything but. This was difficult and disjointed.
Well, we're talking about like this is the first time they've had a summer of no quarterback intrigue whatsoever, because last year was whether Purdy was going to come back from the elbow and Trey Lance. What are you doing with him? So they've had one of these every year for like the entire Shanahan thing. Well, what happened? They don't have any issues with Purdy, none whatsoever, but they have 10,000 other issues everywhere else on the roster.
And then we'll be back to Purdy next year too.
Contract. Yeah, he'll be when we think he's going to be a little squeaky wheel the way that Aiyuk admitted he was going in his contract.
I don't think so. Like I've said before, when Aiyuk started crying in the locker room in February on locker room cleanup day, I knew right then that this was going to be a weird contract negotiation. Purdy is the exact opposite. He's extremely straight-laced, but I don't know. I mean, I definitely don't want to jinx it by saying, "Oh yeah, they're going to get this done."
Yeah, I wouldn't say that.
This is going to be so quick. The numbers are already established. Just sign it and get it done.
Yes, Sparrows, do not make that prediction. Please do not make that prediction, because we know it will go in the exact opposite direction. And I will say this: I think I kind of predicted this in the column a few days ago when it was all coming to a head. I think there's going to be further Aiyuk stuff. He's just this thing just seems to kind of walk into some of these things. You had the doghouse thing with Shanahan. Had this. It's just sometimes the communication lines are not all the way there. I think the one person who gets them is Eric Branch. He really he vibed with Eric Branch at the presser today.
That says a lot about Brandon Aiyuk, and I don't know if it's all positive.
It says a lot about Eric Branch too. We love him, but something there. He asked some great questions. Aiyuk just was entertained by them and then gave some great answers. So Eric Branch does not vibe with every single player in the entire universe. He did with Aiyuk, so maybe he should be doing these negotiations in 2 or 3 years. So that's about the only one. All right, everybody, long, good, decent, incredible show. We will get back to you maybe right after the day after the game, the opener. If there's something else huge happens, God knows with this team, maybe we'll come in earlier, but we'll plan to have our next show Tuesday. All right, that's the show for today.